Vice Chancellor, Your Excellencies, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, to all our graduates gathered before us, good morning. Your ceremony takes place on the eve of yet another local government election. The mere fact that our country has been able to hold elections consistently signifies the strength of our young democracy. It sends a message to all of you as young people to do everything in your power to continue this culture through active participation in elections by making sure that our right to this democracy is guarded for future generations. It is an opportune moment to hold your leaders accountable and to remove those leaders that have not performed to your expectations. I therefore want to urge you to participate in these elections, not only by voting, but by actively campaigning for your parties of choice and leaders that you believe will promote your aspirations. As future leaders of this country, we should be heard raising our voices on pertinent issues of service delivery and condemning those practices that hamper effective service delivery, like fraud and corruption. We should deliberately support leaders that are demonstrating the commitment to fight these ills in our society. When my grandfather, Nelson Mandela, was asked his view about the importance of education, he had the following to say: "Education is the most powerful weapon which you can use to change the world." This has indeed been the hallmark of his attitude, even within his very own family. After his release from prison, he insisted to many of us in the family who had abandoned school to go back and study. He was so serious about this that even my father, who is late now, was 40 years at the time, was coerced to go back to school to further his education, and he graduated, achieving his LLB at the University of Natal. I also fell victim to my grandfather's lectures about the importance of education. After completing my understudy at Damlin College in Johannesburg in business management and marketing, I entered the world of business and was doing very well, which I considered to be a lot of money, as I was earning 81,000 rand at the time. One day he sat me down and inquired about my plans about further education. I showed him my pay slips and business interest, as I was running 2 businesses at the time, how well I was doing. All I can say is that at the end of that discussion, I was on my way to Rhodes University to complete a BA degree and postgraduate diploma in political science. This experience has taught me that money is not everything in life. I learned from my grandfather that responsibility and service to our people was more important, and to do this effectively, education was paramount. Having graduated, I was called upon to abandon my urban life and return to the rural countryside to take over the leadership of Mvezo Chiefdom, 87 years after the Mandela clan was stripped of its chieftaincy because of defiance against imperial interference. I did not hesitate. My decision to further my education has taught me to look at the needs of our people with much clarity. I am better able to appreciate how best we should go about tackling the many challenges facing our people, especially our rural communities. As a traditional leader, I have a duty to ensure that our communities are developed and that the standard of living in our rural areas is the same as that of the rest of the country. I have to work with municipalities and traditional councils in the spirit of cooperative governance to ensure the acceleration of service delivery in rural areas. Many of our communities are still bedeviled by massive underdevelopment, evidenced through poor road infrastructure and lack of basic services like running water, primary health care, sanitation, electricity, and quality education. Social ills such as teenage pregnancy and HIV/AIDS pandemic are rife and are compounded by high levels of unemployment in these areas. We therefore have a responsibility to work closely with government and to mobilize private sector resources to help deal with the challenges our people are facing. Lessons from my grandfather have assisted me to approach these challenges as wisely as possible. My decision to accept a seat in Parliament was also motivated by a duty to serve our people. I am also aware of the many challenges facing our people in the field of education, especially those left by many years of colonialism and apartheid. A large part of this was a deliberate attempt to eliminate from the face of this country our culture and traditions. To date, our cultural perspectives have been subject to distortions, misrepresentations, and stigma because they have been defined through the common sense of white people and Western ideologies. This faulty representation of our culture is continuously reinforced by Western-dominated mass media, who are always prepared to peddle convenient stereotypes about our culture and traditions, depicting them as backward and having no place in modern South Africa. The attack on our culture is perhaps most evident if one looks at how our languages have been affected. Language is undeniably a vehicle that carries people's culture and traditions, our values, beliefs, and the subtle nuances communicated through our idioms and proverbs can only be best transmitted via our languages. In our country today, our languages have been deemed second-class languages. Many black parents insist on speaking to their children in English, thereby reinforcing the cultural stereotypes that English is a representation of a civilized people, while African languages are deemed backward. It is common to find black people belonging to the same language group preferring to speak to each other in English instead of their mother tongue. If a white person speaks a vernacular language badly, they are applauded for trying, whilst if a black person speaks English badly, they are laughed at. Recently, the Minister of Higher Education, Blade Nzimande, announced that every university student in South Africa should be required to learn one African language as a condition for graduating. He is quoted to have said, "Asikwazi ukuba yithi kuphela ekuthiwa sifunde isiNgisi nesibhunu mawethu, kodwa olwethu ulwimi abanye bangasifundi. We can't be expected to learn English and Afrikaans, yet they don't learn our languages." He conceded that African languages or language learners in the poor rural context are most severely impacted by a focus on English to the detriment of African languages. I believe that this development must be supported by all of us, and the minister's intention to launch a teacher education and development plan for the next 15 years to address this problem must be applauded. Our culture has few ambassadors to propagate its interests. Today, we depend on traditional leaders to preserve and protect our culture because they are the custodians and guardians of these cultures. We depend on you, our educated young people, to use your education to be of service to our people. We call on you to use your education to promote our culture for the benefit of generations to come. We expect of you, as our future leaders, to demonstrate responsibility and willingness to enter into sectors of our country, both social and economic, and make a difference. We expect of you to share your knowledge with others so that through this sharing, our country can be empowered. We expect of you to be part of a generation striving to achieve the vision of creating a better life for all. Working together, we can do more. I thank you.